Hello, mathematicians. Today we're going to be learning about addition using decimals. To get us started, we're first going to do an example that does not require that we carry over, otherwise known as regroup. So, here we have 21 and 341 thousandths plus 7 and 12 hundredths. To make our lives easier, we're going to add a place value chart. And if you notice that when we take our two values and line them up by place value, that our decimal points get lined up. So a trick that we could use is, if we do not have this chart, is we could take our two numbers, line them up using their decimal point, and then that would ensure that our numbers are aligned by their place value. If we take a look at our thousandths place value, notice that here we only have one number. And that's because 7 and 12 hundredths does not have a number in the thousandths place value. So if it does make it easier for you, what you could do is you could add a place value holder of 0, and that way there's something there, and it does not change the value when we do add. So just like whole numbers, when we add decimals, we're going to start with the smallest place value. In this case, that is the thousandths place value. Here we have 1 plus 0, which is simply equal to 1. Moving on to our hundredths place value, here we have 4 plus 2, and that is equal to 6. Moving on to our tenths place value, here we have 3 plus 1, and that is equal to 4. Then, if we didn't have this place value chart, what we would do is we would also write a decimal point down at our answer to ensure that our value is correct. If we do not add a decimal point there, that would change the whole value of our answer. And we'll do an example like that later on. So moving on to our ones place value, we have 1 plus 7, and that is equal to 8. And then finally, moving on to our tenths place value, we have 2 plus nothing, which is just equal to 2. So 21 and 341 thousandths plus 7 and 12 hundredths is equivalent to 28 and 461 thousandths. Now, let's do an example that does require that we carry over, also known as regroup. So here we have 32 and 43 hundredths plus 43 and 928 thousandths. We're going to add a chart to make it easier for us where our numbers are lined up by place value. Notice again that our decimal points get lined up when we do line up our numbers by place value. Again, in our thousandths place, we just have one number, so we could add a 0 as a place value holder to make it easier for us to add. So, starting with our smallest place value, which is thousandths, we're going to add 0 plus 8, which is equivalent to 8. Then moving on to our hundredths place value, we have 3 plus 2, and that is equivalent to 5. Then we have 4 plus 9, which is equivalent to 13. So we have to write the 3 on the bottom and bring up the 1. So now in our ones place value, we have 1 plus 2 plus 3, which is equal to 6. Finally, in our tenths place value, we have 3 plus 4, and that is equal to 7. So 32 and 43 hundredths plus 43 and 928 thousandths is equivalent to 76 and 358 thousandths. Now let's try some examples where we don't have a place value chart. Our first example is 1 and 23 hundredths plus 43 and 235 thousandths. So notice here what we did is we lined up our numbers using their decimal points. That ensures that the place values are lined up. Now above the 5, there's no number. So what we can do is we could just add a 0. And then we just add normally, starting with our smallest place value. So 0 plus 5 is equal to 5. Moving on, we have 3 plus 3, and that is equal to 6. And then we have 2 plus 2, and that is equivalent to 4. After this, notice that we have our 2 decimal points, so make sure you bring down your decimal point. It is very important because if you don't, that would change the value of our answer. Then moving on to our ones place, we have 1 plus 3, and that is equal to 4. And then we have we have nothing plus 4, and that is equivalent to 4. So 1 and 23 hundredths plus 43 and 235 thousandths is equivalent to 44 and 465 thousandths. So let's do another example. So now we have 2 and 8 tenths plus 389 thousandths. So line up our decimal points. Notice here, this time we have 2 spaces without any numbers. So what we could do is we could just add 2 zeros there as a place value holder. Then starting with our smallest place value, we're just going to add. So 0 plus 9 is equal to 9. Then we have 0 plus 8, which is equal to 8. Then we have 8 plus 3, and that is equal to 11. So we write 1 on the bottom, and then we bring up another 1 to the top. Make sure you bring down your decimal point. Very important. Do not forget that. And then finally, we have 1 plus 2 plus 0, which is equal to 3. So 2 and 8 tenths plus 389 thousandths is equal to 3 and 189 thousandths. All right, let's do 2 more examples. So we have 53 hundredths plus 3. Notice that 3 is a whole number. So we're going to line these up. In a whole number, the decimal point is after the whole number. So in this case, it would be after the 3. And then notice that we have 2 blank spots. So what we could do is we could just add zeros there. Starting with the smallest place value, we're going to do 3 plus 0, which is equal to 3. Then we're going to move on to the 5. We have 5 plus 0. That is equal to 5. Make sure you bring down your decimal point. Then we have 0 plus 3, which is equal to 3. So 53 hundredths plus 3 is 3 and 53 hundredths. Let's do another example, our final example. Here we have 74 plus 1 and 5 tenths. Remember that 74 is a whole number, so the decimal point would be after the 4. So we're going to add it after the 4. And here we have a blank spot, so what we could do is just add a 0. Starting with the smallest place value, we're just going to add. So 0 plus 5 is equal to 5. Bring down our decimal point. 4 plus 1 is equal to 5. And then finally, 7 plus nothing is equal to 7. And that's it. So 74 plus 1 and 5 tenths is equal to 75 and 5 tenths. And that's all we need to know for adding with decimals.